From the Brewhouse, welcome in. It is soccer over there, a bit of an earlier time, and it is 45 minutes earlier than the normal SOT. So greetings from the Brewhouse. John here, Jason coming in shortly, Madison Cruz coming in shortly. Going to talk a little bit about, or maybe a lot about, the USMNT, and we had the media day, the T-1s. That was happening today with players and with Mauricio Pochettino when Maddie drops in. And when Jason drops in, you get the lowdown on all of that. We'll find out what is on your mind after what happened on the weekend. Now it is getting ready for Portugal. Portugal, when they played Mexico on the later section of Saturday night. Goalless draw with Mexico, and it was pretty much a stacked 11, stacked roster across the board for Roberto Martinez. And so I'm intrigued. I want to see what this lineup looks like for Portugal here as they've traded partners. And so Belgium goes to play Mexico, and the United States takes on Portugal over at Mercedes-Benz. And that is on Tuesday night. Obviously, we'll have a lot of coverage of it tomorrow on SDH AM, and we'll get you ready for that. Slated to drop by in the 9 o'clock hour is our friend Ben Jacobs from Talk Sport. He'll break it down for us since he was at the T-1s at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground for the background on that. And then he was trying to go, I guess, somewhere in Atlanta traffic to make it to Mercedes-Benz Stadium after the availability from the United States to go and watch Belgium look at the grass surface and try and figure out how it bounces, responds, passes, and all that kind of stuff. And so he was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium earlier this evening to kind of look at things from the Belgium side, and got some bit of a Q&A with Roberto Martinez. And so he's slated to drop in 9:30 tomorrow morning. And so we'll discuss the matchup with him. We'll discuss what he saw from the loss to Belgium over the weekend, what he anticipates with the U.S. and Portugal match, and maybe we'll talk a little bit of England, talk a little bit about World Cup qualifiers, which are going to be happening tomorrow as well. And just as a matter of public record, Atlanta soccer tomorrow, it's going to be at a later time, 11 o'clock, and so match is slated for early in the evening. Match will be long gone. Obviously, follow SDH on all of your platforms for all the coverage, whether it's somewhat in-game. We'll have the written wrap-up, and we'll have post-game floating around as we go. But Atlanta soccer tomorrow night, will be at 11 o'clock. And by then, by the end of the show, 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, we will know the field of 48. We'll find out tomorrow afternoon, teams 43, 4, 5, and 6. That will leave the Intercontinental playoffs, and we'll have teams 47 and 48, and that's going to be decided in Mexico later in the evening, about the same time that the friendly's going on, at least for the start, for teams 47 and 48. So we'll have that for you tomorrow as well. So SDHAM will have Ben Jacobs as a part of the menu tomorrow. Casey White's going to join us at 10 o'clock. Marty Jelmy, the head coach for Atlanta United Unified, set to join us at 10:30. So it'll be a stacked show there for SDHAM, and that'll kind of set the table a little bit for the rest of the day. Then you'll have kick at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. After that, you'll have Atlanta Soccer Tonight on 92.9 The Game, and dial that up however you wish to dial it up on your favorite devices. And so it'll be Jason leading the charge there to let you know about the field of 48, and we will let that go from here. And so since it is 7:20 as we're going, it is time to bring in another one of the individuals, and I'm trying to figure out where okay, here it is. Got it. Now it took me a second to figure out what the layout was like, and figuring out here on this particular laptop where things go. And so that means we bring in Maddie Cruz, and we get her thoughts from what happened at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. And it'd be good if I could actually hit a button that would stay. There we go. There's Maddie.
Hello.
So Maddie is here, and I'm going to duck out of the scene really quickly because I have something I have to get out of the bag that I have to show you first. So before we start actually talking about the things, all right, just ducked out. Yeah, see, one of the requests that you had was you wanted to know about this.
I got it. This is great.
So you have it, and so the next time that I see you, which is probably going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Never chase reality. And so there you go.
Great.
Yes, that is. So this is yours. The boss. The way that things go with the boss, at least in our house, if she is gifted something like this, and the U.S. men's national team or whomever, in this case it was USMNT, but if the entity that she goes to visit gives out a freebie and that team loses, then she doesn't want anything to do with it because she feels it's cursed. And so she's like, oh, absolutely, Maddie. So the next time I see you, which will be tomorrow, you can get this, and this goes onto your stacks, and it's very, very light. So the scarves that you have behind you and the wall and the hangers will not be affected by the weight of this particular scarf. So you'll be in good shape. Very, very light. I mean, I don't know is there anything lighter than a summer scarf? I don't know, but it is definitely lighter than your average summer scarf. And so this is heading your way when I see you the next time that we do get to hang out in the same spot. You've been very, very busy, and that's the reason that you are joining us from the location that you are in, the home studio location this evening.
Yes.
And you were gracious enough to come and join us for about 15 minutes on SDH AM before you went into the USMNT availability with players and with Mauricio Pochettino, and see what the lay of the land is coming into this matchup against Portugal tomorrow. What stuck out to you? And you can take it from players' perspective and go to Pochettino. You can go from Pochettino to players, however you want to, whatever order you want. But what stuck out to you from your trip to the Children's Health Care of Atlanta training ground this morning and this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is listen, this is a group that I think is trying to bounce back, and I love that a lot of the conversation was about intensity. Especially when we talk about intensity, a lot of people think of so many different things. I think a lot of people think of, oh, well, it's like intensity and just the way that they play and the way they like intensity so much more than I think it's more of just being out there. And Tim Ream, I think, said it the best too, and in the way he was talking about it is, sometimes you make that effort. It's not about making the first, the second, the third, or the fourth. It's about doing every single moment after that. It's about keeping that up throughout the entirety of the match. And I think for me, Mauricio Pochettino talked a lot about it, and he talked a lot about it, went into detail, brought in some second division Argentinian league stuff like that, about all of that, which was great. You heard me in the back. I was like, oh, wow, this is great. It was really, really awesome. The intensity issue is real. Like it is one where it needs to be, I think, really focused on. And it's something too that a lot of the players also agree with as well. And it's it's something that needs to be highlighted. It's something that really needs to be pushed and more of the standard. And I think it's not the whole story, but I do think that because Mauricio is emphasizing it a lot, I think it is something that we need to see more of, I think, from this team, especially because I feel like with the US, and I feel like when you talk about how they want to be perceived, especially in the world, how they want to be received heading into the World Cup. I believe it was Anthony Robinson said it before the Belgium match. They want people to be scared to play the US. They want people to be worried about going up against the US. A part of that is this intensity. You need to see that more. You need to see that intensity come through. We need to see that show up more in matches. You need to see that relentless effort, that relentless push. And with that being said, with that intensity, that will show teams in the world being like, oh, okay, yeah, we need to be afraid of the US because they can't match us in intensity. They need to do that. They need to set that precedent. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to, especially against Portugal. I think that was the biggest thing that I took away, especially from what Mauricio and a lot of the players also had to say about it too. I'm really excited to dive more deep into it as well. Writing a little something for SDH. So
tease, there you go.
Tease. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me is that big takeaway.
And from a player's perspective, we did get a couple of pieces of news. It was mentioned post-match on the weekend that by Mauricio Pochettino that Johnny only went 45 because he was feeling tightness or uncomfortability, whatever word you wish to use. So Johnny only goes 45. He subbed out at the beginning of the second half to start the second half on the matchup on Saturday. And U.S. Soccer releases a note this afternoon that he's released from camp, and that Chris Richards also, as a part of the media scrums and the media information session that was there for the T-1. Chris Richards good to go, and so Johnny leaving camp, Chris Richards good to go for the matchup against Portugal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Chris Richards, I think that's huge. I think the fact that you could possibly see him in the match tomorrow that's so critical and that's so important. And I think especially when you look at I think when you look at that back line, I think he's such a leader back there. I'm really excited to see. Hopefully, he does get a chance to play in the match against Portugal. We actually don't know how many subs are going to be given. That was something that was not talked about. If you remember in Belgium, they had agreed on it being 11. We don't know if that was agreed upon against Portugal. But we will, as soon as we find out, we'll let you know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Chris Richards being back, I think, is going to be huge. I think it's going to be really nice to have that presence in the back line. It's really unfortunate for Johnny Cardoso, but you don't want to push it. You don't want to push him to a point where something gets re-injured. You don't want to push something where it becomes something bigger than it is now. You let him get back to his club team. You let him get back there. Let him compete, especially since his club team is too. Wherever he's at, they're going to be pushing, especially and getting things going as well. So you want to make sure that he's doing okay, getting back to at least that way nothing gets completely, I'm not even saying injured because I don't even. It's just
amplified. If it's amplified.
Exactly.
Any word on Miles one way or the other? Was that ever mentioned or brought up?
That was not mentioned today. Miles was not mentioned. I would assume that he is. I believe from what he said against Belgium, he is out completely.
Okay. So looking at Chris Richards in the lineup and or at least available, not necessarily the lineup or anything like that, and doing the Collinsworth jump in. It's not really a slide, considering that's a little difficult to
don't have wheels on the chair. Can't really slide.
No, but so Jason is now in, and so early thoughts from the early conversation we had. What else is on your mind as we bring Maddie?
I mean, the biggest one, I think Miles is out. I don't think it was said necessarily today, but I don't think there was any expectation that he would be able to participate in these two games. Don't know how long he's going to be out, but he's out for at least a little while. What else stood out to you other than intensity? I mean, you're going to dig deeper into that on soccerdownhere.net, but what else stood out to you from what was said other than the intensity conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because I think for me, that was the one thing that stuck out. That was the thing I knew coming in from that matchup that I wanted to highlight. And it's something that I think relates more. And listen, when we talk about mentality, it's not a thing of like, this mentality is bad within this group. That's not what I'm saying. When mentality comes into effect here in those situations, it's how you recover from those moments in a match where it really does affect you. When you give away a goal, when that happens, how do you react? How do you respond in those moments of adversity on the pitch? And that's where that comes into play. I really like the conversation, though, that he talked about leadership and how really diving deep into leadership. And one thing I think that stuck out, he said leadership can't be bought at a supermarket. It's not something that you can just get it and it's like, oh, yep, you're a leader now. It's something that you have to have, and it's something that is built, and it's something that's harnessed, and it's something that is continuously built. And it's why you have such a strong group of leaders within this group. It's not just Kristen Pulisic. It's not just Weston McKennie. It's not just Chris Richards. It's a collective group that comes together to help lead this team. And you need that. You don't just need one person leading this whole thing. It needs to be a group of people that can come together, that people can look to be those leaders on the pitch. Because some of those guys might not be on the pitch. You need to have leaders all throughout the group. That way you have people to look to in those situations who can get things going and rally everybody else together.
I want to separate the intensity and mentality conversation because I think they're separate things. I think mentality, I'm with you, it shows up when something goes wrong or right in the game and how the team handles it. You always hear, and it's valid, some teams are very vulnerable after they score because their focus isn't there. They're maybe still caught up in the moment, maybe still celebrating in their head. Other teams, when they give up one, they're going to give up two or three. Some teams, and I remember the Philadelphia Union at their best being like this, when they'd score one, they were probably going to score two or three because of the mentality. That's different. I think intensity, and that's something that Poach talked about really clearly, and he compared it to the France-Colombia game yesterday. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, he's dead on. And it was evident when you look at the difference between those two games. And I think France is a better team than Belgium. France has impressed me the most of any of the contenders in this window. France is getting into that point to where they might be my favorite by the time we get to the World Cup. They have been dominant against Brazil and Colombia and looked like at times they were barely getting out of second gear. But Colombia matched the intensity and maybe even surpassed the French intensity, and France was able to do enough with better talent and beat Colombia. But 3-1 and the way that game felt versus the 5-2 with the US and Belgium, they felt different because of the intensity level. And there's just a dramatic difference between a Colombian player and a US player. There just is, in terms of how they play when they represent the national team, how they play in those moments where they're getting outplayed. I mean, France was at times just unbelievably brilliant yesterday. Desiree Doué is going to be the breakout player in the World Cup, and he showed it yesterday. So I guess where I get to, and it's not something that Pochettino can fix, and I think people who yell at him for it are completely off. This is not a Pochettino thing. This is a soccer culture thing. The soccer culture is different in Colombia or Argentina or other countries. I mean, but it's different country to country. But in the U.S., the level of intensity is not quite the same across the board for 90 minutes because our soccer culture is different. And a coach isn't going to fix that. It is down to the players, and we've seen the U.S. be able to navigate those situations in the past. I think they navigated it last fall. I really do. I thought the intensity level across 90 minutes was much better last fall. But in this game, and we talked about it Saturday night, it scared me that it felt like a step back, that when things got rough, instead of the intensity going up another level of we can't let this happen, it was kind of like, oh, it's happening.
But
that's a problem.
This is my thing too, and I know I agree with you in the sense that the mentality intensity conversation, I do think it's not tied together. But in that situation, I do believe it is, because it is tied together. Because
they're tied together in points. They're not completely tied together.
And they're not completely tied together, but in those moments, especially when you talk about France, Colombia, and you talk about what happened against U.S. men's national team in Belgium, you have a team in Colombia and you have a team in France going up against a team like France. They want to put their best foot forward, and they want to make sure when they're going up against a team, they want to show what they're about. It doesn't matter if they're down 3-1. They're going out there and they're going to put on the best performance they can, and they're going to do whatever they can to do to try to stop that from becoming 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. They're going to make sure that that's going to stay the case. And that's it. And that they're going to make sure that that doesn't happen, because that's what they need to do. They want to represent the Colombia well. They want to do out there, and they want to do that. Yes, you're down 3-1. You don't want to make it 4-1. You don't want to make it 5-1. You don't want to make it 6 or 7 or 8. For the USA and Belgium, it was one where after around the 60th minute, because I agree with Pochettino, I think that's where things started to fall, was after the 60th minute. After that happened, you gave up 2 goals in the span of, I believe it was 6 minutes, and then you gave up another third one in 15. And you let it get to 5-2 at the very end. That's where, when we talk about intensity, but I also do believe we do talk about mentality, because there has to be a moment where it's like, guys, come on. Like, we cannot let this happen here in Atlanta. We cannot let this happen in front of our fans. We got to stop this. Like, you can't let it get to that point. And that is where I agree with you. That is where I got nervous with the shift. That's where I got nervous with that moment there, where you let the game get away, you let those moments happen. And that's something that, especially as we look ahead and we get ready for World Cup, that cannot happen.
The crossover is intensity can affect mentality. Mentality can affect intensity, but they're 2 separate things. Here's where the massive difference was. What you said about Colombia is correct. They were down 3-0 at one point. They got a goal to pull it back to 3-1. And it never felt at 3-0 like it felt for the U.S. when it was 5-1. It never felt hopeless. The players did not transmit that it felt hopeless. Now, once you had subs for the U.S. and you had players then trying to prove themselves, the energy level picked up, the chaotic element of the game picked up, and it was a little bit better. But you go back and look at it, for the goal in the 45th, you hate to see goals at the very end of the half. That happens. Okay. So you go into halftime, it's 1-1. Coming out of halftime, was a massive problem. And this was before the subs. The fourth goal happened 4 minutes after Freeman, Berhalter, Arston came in. But it got to 3-1 with 2 goals on the other side of halftime in the 53rd and the 59th. That can't happen. I mean, the penalty was the 57th. The actual goal happened in the 59th. The penalty was called in the 57th. So that's where, to me, the intensity level coming out of halftime did not match where it was in the first half. That's a problem. The intensity level in general did not overpower Belgium, because here's the thing. The U.S. is not going to be more talented than Argentina, Spain, Belgium, England, France. I don't know if I put Belgium 5th in the world, Brazil, Portugal, Germany, most of the top 10. The U.S. is not going to be more talented than the top 10. And that's just where it is. That's reality. You can like it, not like it. You can yell and blame it on whatever. And the takes of the dumpster fire that is the hashtag USMNT don't. Like, it singes your eyes. The issue is you don't have the same level of talent. So how do you compete? You compete by being more intense than the opponent. And go back to what Gustavo Alfaro said for Paraguay when the U.S. beat them, about how intense that team was and how Paraguay couldn't match it, and that's why they didn't win. So you've got to find that way, and that's purely on the players for me. And I know you have players from different backgrounds, and they have different mentalities, and they've had different life experiences, and I totally get all that. So I'm not asking them to be like a kid from Colombia or Argentina. I mean, Poach talked about the intensity in Copa Argentina. He's dead on. Like, you don't always see that in games with U.S. teams. Mm-hmm. You've got to find a way to get it as high as possible for as consistently long as possible. This game, I think you had the proper intensity level for 35 to 40 minutes. You were okay for another 10 or 15. But you've got to be tougher. You mentioned it, Maddie. You've got to be a team that you don't want to play. You've got to be a team that you struggle to break down. The U.S. wasn't that in this game against Belgium, and Portugal's going to test them in a very different way. And we'll see what the response is, because there's got to be something.
Yeah, because for me, it's like it's like the same conversation we talk about with Atlanta United when we talk about the homegrowns. We talk about those guys whenever they put on the badge. That's all they know. They have worn the Atlanta United crest since they were 12, 13, maybe even 11, coming into the academy. And they all the way through every single level, U15s, U16s, U18s, going all the way up to the second team. When they put on that kit for the first team, that's it. You're representing Atlanta. You're representing Atlanta United. You're representing everything there. And for me, especially when you look at a team like Colombia, when they go out there and they know they're going up against France, one of the heavy contenders in the World Cup, they go out there and they know, I'm representing Colombia. I'm going out there and we're not going to let this game get a hand. We're going to get a goal back when we're down 3-0, and we're going to do it. And
the difference with Colombia, though, and I think this is where the U.S. needs to aspire to be, Colombia does that if they play France, if they play Azerbaijan, if they play England, if they play Bolivia. It doesn't matter. They always have that level of intensity.
And that's the same. And that's the thing for the U.S. too, because it's like you said, the talent, it's not going to be comparable to some of the talents you have in France, you have in Argentina. It's not. You have to find a way to do that. And the way you do that is by going out there and being so intense, going out there and just being absolutely relentless out there. That way you make another team say, wow, okay, we can't match this. This is insane. How are we going to go up against this team because of that? And that for me is where I think we need to see that more consistently. And we need to see it across the entire match. And it's something that every single player echoed today. It's something that every player echoed even before the Belgium game. It just needs to carry through all the way out. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that none of them don't know they're representing the U.S. They have all talked about that so many times. This year, that's not what I'm talking about.
And they care, and don't throw that one in there either. Like, they care and they know what it means.
Yes, they all care and they all know this. The intensity part of it is just keeping that consistent all the way through and keeping that energy, keeping everything that you were giving within the first 30, 40 minutes of that first game against Belgium. You want to carry that over the entire 90 minutes. And yeah, it's tiring. But yeah, you want to leave the pitch almost feeling like your legs are going to come off because of everything that you're doing out there. That's what you want to see from the U.S. That's what I want to see as well, because I feel like that's how we're going to succeed in the World Cup. That is
Think
how.
Think about it and go ahead.
Yeah, that's how we're doing.
I was just gonna say, like, think about it in terms of a workout where, like, you in a longer workout, you're gonna have ebbs and flows, and that's fine. But think about when you're like your finishing kick on a run or on a treadmill or on a bike. You need to, if you're the US, have that level for as long as you can maintain it. The next step is then a little bit into mentality of being able to understand, all right, we are jelly-legged right now. How can we hold on a little bit while we recover, while we regroup, while we catch our breath? And those are the things that I think when the U.S. national team is at its best, they do well. And when they're not, you see that gap. Because, look, this team you're playing tomorrow, that midfield, Ruben Neves, Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha, fullbacks, Dallo and Cancelo. I mean, yeah, like you're going to have to deal with that. So, all right, it's got to be better. And I really feel like this is a game that what Pochettino said today was dead on in so many different ways. I thought he really nailed it. The team overall was better than the result. I agree with that. The big chances were even 3-3. They should have been 2-0 up before Belgium got a goal. Like, absolutely, yes. They were not as bad on the offensive side as people have made it out to be. For whatever reason, and certain leading pundits that everybody seems to love want to make Christian Pulisic a punching bag again. Stop it. Stop it. Just absolutely stop it. You're not going to replace him in terms of talent with anybody in the national team pool. You're not going to get anybody naturalized in time to replace him talent-wise. He is your guy, and he was not the problem in this game. Let's stop doing this nonsense. The problem was the game got away from you defensively. And I really go back to what we've talked about, that I just think with who these guys are, what they have, what they can do realistically against better teams, they really need to have an extra defender behind the ball. I just don't think they can do it without defending in what turns into a line of five. I think the hybrid nature of it just didn't quite work. And you've got to be a little bit safer in those ways. So we'll see. It's a real test. And to me, I mean, this is going to say a lot about this group of players. And I think you have some players who are going to either play their way into a World Cup roster spot or they're going to play their way out of it. I didn't mean to mic drop that or anything.
Oh,
No.
I think you're spot on. I mean, you're going to take the body of this evidence, Maddie, over these two matches, and you're going to have Mauricio Pochettino and his staff bring in all the data, whether it's the eye test, looking at analytics or what have you, and you're going to have some decisions that'll be made for you, that'll be easy to make, and then you might have some that you're going to have to sit there and make some really hard decisions, might be unpopular decisions when it comes to the 27 that you're going to have coming up here in less than 80 days.
Hey, Maddie, can I put you on the spot?
Uh-oh.
Sure. I'm scared.
Who's your starter in goal in game one of the World Cup?
Oh, for US?
Yeah.
Matt Freese.
Yeah, same. I think you saw enough, and I agree with Brian Dunseth. And I thought at halftime, you know, he was pretty clear in kind of having this conversation with Brad Gazan about that first goal. To me, is it an error? No, it's not an error because it's through traffic, and the first save is pretty good. Like, I don't think it was great, but it was pretty good, and he punched it high and away, and that's fine. And people should have stepped out. I totally agree with that. But if you want to be the starter when you're trying to win the spot back, it's not about necessarily making mistakes. It's about going out and making a play that somebody else doesn't. And that, to me, was one of those. I feel like he's got to get there. I didn't like his rebounds at times either. I just think Matt Freese is in better shape. I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And I think, like, Matt Turner had some great moments. He had some great reaction saves in the game. He was really solid in some of those moments. It's just, again, it's like you said, it's who's going to be the one to make that play coming forward. Because there's going to be a moment in the World Cup where it's going to be decided by a keeper. I mean, you'll look at Tim Howard and some of the things that he had to do in the World Cups as well. I mean, saving games for the U.S., that's how it's going to be played out. You look at a lot of other matches in the World Cup, how many of them have been saved by the keepers? And I think you need someone who's fresh and who has a little bit more consistency in that moment too. And I think that right now is Matt Freese. And I'm curious if we see him tomorrow in the match. Pochettino was asked about it today. He did not disclose anything about that, obviously. I do think that it's going to be Matt Freese, just because I feel like you give Turner one game to do something and then you're going to give Matt Freese another opportunity. I do think it's Matt Freese. I just think he's more consistent and he's more he has more reps under his belt, and I think he has a better awareness, I think, of just what everything is going on. And I think just in those situations, I think he'll be the one to make the play.
To me, if you're not a borderline world class player, if you're not that, and like I've said about Christian Pulisic, is he killing Mbappe? No. Is he the closest thing that the U.S. has to world class? Yes. That guy's going to play. If you're at that kind of a level, you're going to play, period. If you're not, there's two things I look for. Are you consistent? Do you have like these wild ups and downs in performance? I don't want that. I want to know where your level is. I want to know what to expect. Of course, I want you to surpass that sometimes, but I need to know where the baseline is. If you're giving me, an 8 out of 10 and then a 2 out of 10 and then a 4 out of 10, then a 7 out of, if you're all over the map, I don't know what to expect. The other thing is something that I go back to what we talked about on Friday, and I've talked about a lot. In this case, where Matt Freese, Matt Turner, you could bring, I think Patrick Schulte got injured at a really bad time in his call-ups earlier on when he was killing it with Columbus and hasn't gotten the opportunity again. To me, he was the one that I thought could take it. Roman Celentano, there's a bunch of guys that are all pretty good.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty consistent. I need one of them to at least give me the feeling that they can make a game-saving play. If they're all about the same level and if they're all about the same consistency level, I'm not freaking out about them having a stinker. I need to have that feeling that one of them is going to make the, oh my God, save. I don't have that about Matt Turner now. And look, maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I wanted to see it on that play, on that first goal. Didn't happen. He, as we talked about after Copa America, made some very bad decisions in his professional career and ended up in places where he didn't play enough. And I don't think he's sharp enough, and I don't think he's shown enough to be the guy Matt Freese has. And barring a stinker from him tomorrow, I think Matt Freese is your starter to game one. So, okay, with one game in the books, Chris Richards, he's not world class, but he is the best of the center backs. I think everybody kind of feels that way. If he's healthy, he starts. Do we have an inkling of who's around him? Because I don't. I don't know. I really don't. And that scares me because I have a decent feeling about the rest of the group. I think Fuller and Balogun's the guy up top. Yeah. Pulisic is one of the attacking midfielders. I want to see Gio Reyna start and play as long as he possibly can tomorrow because he needs to make a case for himself. If he doesn't, I don't need him this summer because he's one who is up and down, but in his favor, he has shown the ability to go out and win a game for you. So I need to see something from him tomorrow against top competition because we're not going to see anything from him at the club level. So I'd like to see him, if Christian plays 45, which is probably where I think he would be tomorrow, I'd like to see them play together for 45 and see what that looks like. McKennie's starting in my team, no question. If Tyler Adams is healthy, he's starting in my team, no question. Out wide, it's Destin and Jedi if they're healthy, no question. It's the center backs that I really have the question about, and I just don't have any answers.
And you look at this bunch, Maddie, and it's like, can someone please step up? Because if you've got a bunch of folks that are 6.5s and 7s.
I know Ream's a 6.5. And that's great. I know he's going to be solid.
Yeah.
I'd like somebody who gives me the capability of having a shutdown game. And I don't think he's got a whole lot more than that really solid level. And and it's nothing against him as a player. People have been so unfair to this guy for his whole career. He's been one of the best defenders that the U.S. has ever produced. No question about it. He's up there, though. If it's in a 3, I feel okay with him on the left of the 3. I do. I can make that work. I'll take that. So then the right side of the 3, who is it? If that's where we're zeroing it in on, I don't know.
Listen, this might be unpopular, and it might be one. I personally would make the case that you could put Alex Freeman there. I really do.
I would too. I just don't know if you have the time to feel good about it yet, because I'm with you. I like that idea of a size, speed, power. He can get forward and turn it into a 4 when he needs to. I like that. I really do. I just don't know if you've had him do it enough at the highest of levels to trust it. Now, you might have to roll the dice, because if nothing else jumps out to say this is my spot, I would be willing to roll the dice.
Well, and for me, my thing would be, especially if you're looking at it, and it's something that I do believe that Mauricio Pochettino as well as Tata Martino, I think, are very similar. I mean, we saw it in the way that they spoke about
a lot of similarities. You're right.
They are ones that aren't afraid to play the kids. They're not afraid to play the young player if they're ready to go. And I do think Mauricio sees something in Alex Freeman, or else he wouldn't be getting these call-ups he's been getting. And I think he really made a test for himself in those friendlies against Uruguay and Paraguay for what he brings. And we go back to intensity. Alex Freeman brings it every single time he's out there. And I would be curious if, especially tomorrow, if we maybe see the starting lineup look like a 3 in the back. I'd love to see him get the start there in the back in that right area too. I would love to see it, because I feel like that would be a good showing to see where that test can be. I do think you have Scally. I think Scally's in the conversation to be okay. I want to see maybe more of it to give me a real big thing. And listen, Tanner Tessman is still that option. You could bring him in and he can play in that center back role. But again, it's the fact that I don't know how I feel about that. I feel more confident in having it be an Alex Freeman on the right. And then you have Richards, and then you have Ream as the left. I'm okay with that. Yeah. I feel like too, like at this rate, like for me, especially as you look ahead to it, when you're talking about that right-sided center back, I would love to see Alex Freeman get the opportunity, because I feel like at every moment he has been given the opportunity, he's shown up and he's done the job. And he has been someone that looks for intensity there. And I mean, respectfully, that's what I want right now more than anything. That's what I want, and I feel like he can bring it.
So my question to the both of you, where Alex Freeman is concerned, obviously we're very high on him and what he brings to the table, but much like Gio Reyna, he's only played in 4 of 9 matches that he's been available for Villarreal, and it's a total of 38 minutes in those 4 matches that he has played where he's been available for the 9.
Yeah, no, it's real, and it's a concern. But if somebody else doesn't step up and win the spot, I'm willing to roll the dice on it. I am. It's a really tricky one. I mean, you go back and you look at the lineups, and everybody is playing all kinds of revisionist history about what was said and how it was said and what happened. And I get it from the manager. He's not going to give anything away, and he shouldn't break out a chalkboard and explain it to people. But you go back and you look at the lineup against Uruguay from the fall, and it was Tolkien on the left. It was Trusty, McKenzie, Freeman, and Dest. That could be a 5. It can also be a 4. And I think we're getting into these situations where we're talking about what is it, trying to say what is it all the time, when we need to be more of what is it defensively and what is it offensively. Mm-hmm. And if it turns into a 4 offensively because Freeman turns into a right back and he's stepping up higher, that's fine. No problem with that. It's defensively. I didn't like the conversation after the Belgium game about asking a Johnny Cardoso or asking a Tanner Tessman to get all the way out wide to help with Doku. I think it's asking too much. I don't think it's realistic. I think it's better to have the extra defender behind the play, so then Tim Weah can be a little more aggressive knowing he's got cover. I don't think you have the players to cover that ground to make that work at this level. I don't. So whatever it was, whatever we want to say that it was, however we want to, again, play revisionist history, it felt like much more of a 5 defensively against Uruguay and against the teams in the fall. I mean, go back and look at the other line. If you go back to the Australia game, and it was Miles Robinson, Chris Richards, Mark McKenzie, and Freeman, was one of them a left back or was somebody else a left back? I'd have to go back and look at the game, but Robinson, Richards, and McKenzie are 3 center backs. Freeman might have been the right wing back in that case and was one of Robinson, Richards, or McKenzie a sort of left back, maybe kind of. Again, we're getting into hybrid stuff. I want 3 true center backs. And if one of them is going to be Freeman because you don't have another true center back who has stepped up to win that spot, I'll take that kind of hybridization. I don't think Scally gives you the same stuff going forward as Freeman can if he's the hybrid. I just think somebody's got to step up in that position group and wow us tomorrow. Somebody has to, because otherwise we're having a lot of guesses going into those last 2 games before the World Cup.
Yeah, and it's probably more of an appearance bias from our part where Alex Freeman is concerned. We've seen the evidence. We have the evidence from Major League Soccer.
Well, we have the evidence from MLS Next Pro as well.
And so we're more inclined to be comfortable putting Alex Freeman in that discussion. Gio Reyna, we know what he brings to the table, but
I'll take the gamble on Reyna. He's got the talent. I'll take it right now. I mean, again, nobody else has stepped up to take it.
Yeah.
So I will give him a shot. Okay, we'll see if he takes it.
Yeah.
That's the other half of this equation.
He's been good with the national team. I can't say bad about him on the national team. He's been pretty good.
Because that's the thing too, when we talk about, like, it's another thing that I really didn't like either, hearing and seeing all the stuff on the hashtag USMNT, insane chaos too, was, talking about how a lot of these MLS guys have proven that they don't deserve to go to the World Cup. And I'm like, I'm like, guys, come on. We also, look, when they were checked into the match, you were already down 3-1. Like, you were already down.
MLS guys, like,
and also too, like, again, like, it's one of those things where they check in, they're still trying to I wouldn't be shocked if maybe you see the lineup tomorrow and there's a couple of them who maybe are starting or maybe not. We don't know the substitutions and how that's going to roll. That was not asked today. But I'm assuming it would, not knowing what that margin would be. I believe it is going to be 8 though, because I don't know, unless Portugal and US have had a conversation, we don't know what that's going to be yet. So we'll get confirmation tomorrow before the match. But for me, I mean, I feel like when you go out there, they're trying to represent the team and they're doing the best they can. They bring intensity, they do that. Then that's what Pochettino's going to look for. Pochettino's made it abundantly clear. However, many times he has to say it or you have to believe it in any way. He doesn't care what club you play for. He doesn't care if you're playing, not playing. It doesn't matter. If you've proven and you've shown up in those situations, he's going to pull you in. And there's a reason why you're seeing Christian Roldan. There's a reason you're seeing Sebastian Berhalter. There's a reason you're seeing all of those guys step up it's Max Arfsten. There's a reason you're seeing those guys get brought back in again. It's because Pochettino sees something in them. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, and you can still say that Arfsten and Berhalter didn't help themselves, and that's fine. Like they didn't. They both made mistakes that led to goals. That's real. That happened. Christian Roldan was not a problem. You can also talk about Mark McKenzie not being good enough on the day. You can talk about Tim Wynn not being good enough on the day. They don't play in MLS. Like it's such a stupid red herring that people have to get over. And I swear that there are so many people in this country who say that they're soccer fans of the United States and they actually hate soccer in the United States. And those people, when they do that, I am begging anybody listening to this, I am begging you to do what I do. Mute them. Don't pay attention to them. Don't share their garbage. Don't share it because you know what it's going to turn into. Every chance they get, it's going to be biased and it's going to be garbage against the domestic league in this country. It's stupid. It is absurd, and it happens in no other country in the world. There are people who are making a whole lot of money off of social media engagement when all they do is trash soccer in this country and trash the league that is growing soccer in this country. And they make things like what you talked about, which is absurd. If you want to talk about a player not playing well, absolutely fine. I've liked Max Arfsten. He did not step out and close down on a situation. He made a mistake. Absolutely he did. There are also players who are from MLS who played well in the game. Patrick Gajiman came up through MLS. He got his opportunity. He didn't magically become a great player when he went to England, Has he learned maybe a little bit about that intensity that's needed 90 minutes? Yes, absolutely. There are things that are good about other leagues in the world. Don't get me wrong. But this idea that MLS is bad for the national team is the dumbest thing that people say. And it is one of the most dangerous things that people say. And when people go down that road and they let the mask, sometimes they absolutely wave the mask in your face. But when the ones who try to play both sides of it, when the mask slips, go in, find their profile, and hit mute. And just don't waste your time, because it does nothing to grow the conversation. Yep. It's garbage. It's got to stop. Yep. We got to stop platforming it. We got to stop giving these people attention. We've got to stop with this stuff, because if you go through the best players who come from this country, 95% of them are coming through an MLS Academy or MLS Next Pro or MLS itself. That's the reality. Who is investing the money to develop better talent right now than we've ever had before in terms of overall depth of the player pool? Major League Soccer clubs. Who's going out and spending millions upon millions upon millions to have kids come in and play for free in these academies, investing in coaching education, investing in facilities like we see here in Atlanta, investing in methodology like we see here in Atlanta, investing in all that? Who's doing it? It's not the club with the guy down the street who tells you that he's not going to go to watch the MLS team in town because they suck. It's not that guy. He isn't producing anything. A bunch of garbage. It's the pro clubs that are growing the game. So we've got to stop. We can sit here and we do it, and we cover it. We see it day to day. We say we want the league to do this. We want it to be better here. We want to see improvement here. Absolutely. We always want to see it be better. The Premier League can be better, folks. La Liga can be better. Bundesliga can be better. Serie A can be better. Every league can improve. It's the ones who tell you that MLS is hurting the national team. Go in, profile, mute. Block if you want. There's some of them are on my block list. Just stop paying attention to them. Don't bring them into my mentions. I want no part of it.
Because here's the thing too, is like when I said it in the World Cup draw show that we had, and I still believe it too. This is the first World Cup, in my personal opinion, and this is just me. This is how I feel about it. I've been watching the U.S. men's national team, I feel like, since I was born, with my parents and everything else. Like, I remember watching the Rio World Cup with my dad, like, and watching Clint Dempsey score in the first, 30 seconds of a match. Like, I remember this. This is the first World Cup, I feel like, where you actually have a real case when you talk about depth in the roster. Pochettino's talked about it, where the choices, especially when you talk about the midfield, other places too, he's like, I'm having a problem because I have to choose between these guys. That's a real conversation, and you look at the depth and how everything's playing out too. A lot of that depth has come from MLS. So again, the conversation needs to stop, because depth, this is the first time we've ever had this depth before. That's something to be happy about. That means we're growing the game. That means things are going to continue to move in that direction like we want to see it. So the conversation about it just needs to stop, because A, it's not true anymore, so you can't say it. And B, you look at some of the best players that are on the team now who have moved on to other clubs. They got their start in MLS. So might want to stop it. I want to bring it back one time too before I'll throw it back to John. We talked about defenders. There was one we didn't mention, and I'm curious. I'm actually curious what you guys think too, and I'll throw the question. I'm taking the
what you got?
Sorry.
That's fine. What you got?
Walker Zimmerman.
In terms of intensity, I have zero problem with Walker Zimmerman being in my team at any point. I know I'm going to get a set piece threat as well. I think physically he's not where he used to be, and that's a problem. Again, I don't, unless somebody just has a Paolo Maldini kind of game tomorrow, I think the door's open. And Walker's going to have the opportunity with Toronto to find his best form between now and the roster. I think it's a long shot. I do. I think he's probably a year or two removed, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. It isn't, because I know what I'm going to get, and I know I'm going to get the intensity that I want out of him.
I was looking at the 27, and to the point that we've been making here over the last little bit, is how many of these players are overseas that had their starts in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, hold on.
I mean, look, Ricardo Pepi, last time I checked.
Greg, I agree. I would have liked to have seen George Campbell get a call. I really hoped that Campbell would get enough time to impress to play into this, because absolutely he would be somebody that, and maybe the door's open. Maybe same as we're talking about with Walker. Maybe it's open. Good shout, Greg.
Good shout. Literally, and that's the thing too, is like, yeah, that's a great chart. That's a great shout. Man.
I mean, you think of it, right? Tessman and Pepe through the FCD system with FC Dallas. Then you have, I mean, Tim Ream has gone back and forth, and he's spent time here. He's come back, and he's now with Charlotte. And obviously, it's down the line.
Yeah, I mean, he started, went young, came back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we don't have to prove the case. I don't need to sit here and have a debate with like Steve 45, 67, 87, Egg Avatar, ProRel for US, hate MLS hashtags. I don't need to have a debate with that guy. I really don't. It's not worth my time. Just understand where at times some of the conversation comes from. I'll share this. Let me share it in a way that is fair. When I talk to people around the league, we travel with Atlanta United, we talk to commentators around the league. Commentators come to Atlanta. When we talk to people and get into these kind of conversations, and it happens about MLS teams too. I mean, part of it is just fandom, and that's fine. But the U.S. is the one that it is the most extreme. I will watch a game, and I will generally, with U.S. games, try not to be following along on social media. I try to watch the game. I try to have my thoughts, my opinions about it, and have them be mine before anything else comes into the play. There are way too many times with U.S. games that I will then look to see what other people are saying, and I'm like, am I high?
Yeah.
Am I having a fever dream?
Right. Yeah.
Did I miss the game? Did I watch a different game?
Yeah.
It's insane at times. And it was very funny to watch the narratives shift from Saturday immediately after the game to Saturday night to yesterday to today. And it's just so much of it is performative. And it's a shame. That's kind of the nature of what we do. And it's a shame that it is. It's got to stop. And I think we've just got to be realistic about what we have right now. Do I want to see in the next 20 years the U.S. be a top 10 talent team in the world? Absolutely. And the way they're going to get there is because of MLS and the investment in academies and young players get an opportunity to play. I want to see that. They're not there right now. So it's unfair to expect them to be a top 10 team. They're not. But here's the thing about yesterday's France-Colombia game that I thought was so interesting that Poach brought it up. And he didn't go down this road exactly. I'll tell you what I was thinking watching the game. I saw how Colombia, which is a top 20-ish team, against a better team than Belgium, a top 5 team. So Colombia's probably top 15, maybe. A top 5 versus a top 15 team versus a top 10 versus a top 20 team. So it's the same kind of matchup. Colombia was an underdog, US was an underdog. All right. The difference to me is that there was never a point, even when France was flying and looked brilliant, there was never a point that I felt like Colombia wasn't in the game in total. There were points where with the U.S. game I did. And that's the difference. And that's what I want to see from this team. And some of it is a little bit, look, I saw the old school U.S. teams that were definitely not top 20 talent-wise, or more like top 30, top 40. And they had no choice but to outwork teams and be competitive that way. I saw that. That's back in the day. Those days are gone, and that's a good thing. You're a top 20 talent team. That's a really good place to be. The U.S. has more talent than any country in this hemisphere outside of Argentina, Brazil, Colombia. That's it. The U.S. has more talent than Mexico and Canada. They have more talent. Doesn't mean they're going to beat them all the time. They have more talent. They have more talent than a lot of teams. They have more talent than Scotland, than Ireland, than Northern Ireland, than Wales. I think they have more talent than all those. They don't have more talent than England. They don't have more talent than France. They don't have more talent than Germany. They don't have more talent than Belgium and Spain and Portugal and the Netherlands. You can get into Senegal, Morocco. That's an interesting conversation. It's a little harder to compare. Japan, South Korea. That's a little bit harder to compare. I think you're roughly the same. I really do. I think talent-wise, you're close to that 10 mark. Depth of talent is good. You've got choices. I want to see it get better. We all want to see it get better, and we're going to say the things that we think will help it get better. But this idea that if they aren't beating Belgium in this game, that they're a failure, it's crazy talk. It's crazy talk, and I think we just overreact to stuff. So it's on people who, if we're going to put stuff out there and we're going to be public with our opinions and all that, for me, it's on us to be real with people and not try to perform. And I feel like a lot of the U.S. national team conversation, and it comes up with the women as well, it turns performative, and it's a shame, because we can have legit conversations about how do we want to see them get better? What do we want to see improve? We can get into all that and be real about it, rather than, it sucks. This guy sucks. Fire this guy. Greg, the thing I would say about the signature win thing, because I hate the signature win conversation, because you don't always get a chance to have a signature win. Sometimes the competitions you're in present the opportunity, and yeah, you got to. I mean, when you're saying signature win for where the U.S. is, I think you're saying an upset. Like, that's what that is.
Yeah, signature win in a tournament is one of those where you hang your head because you outpunched your weight. You've got that upset.
But it's an upset, and upsets don't happen on a regular basis. A signature win in terms of winning things that this generation has, and Greg Berhalter won things. You know, you go to Nations League, you go to Gold Cups, you go to those things.
Like, I was gonna say, for like, I feel like, and I'm just spitballing here. Like, I'm thinking about the matchup, and I'm blanking on everything right now. So cut me some slack, and you guys will be able to help me, since you guys combine your brains are a little bit. You guys have soccer knowledge that I sometimes forget. When McKinney's jersey got ripped, I feel like that was a match that.
I think that was, and I think, to be fair, I think that was BJ Callahan, if I remember right, and that was Nations League with Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah, I would put that for this generation for a signature win, because the way they did it.
Exactly. Like, that's my thing. And you talk about, like, we talk about the conversation of intensity and grit and relentlessness and fight. Like, I point to that match every single day of the week because of everything that it had in it, and the resilience and the intensity that the U.S. brought in it. And listen, we talk about U.S. versus Mexico all the time, and how that is a rivalry matchup too. But for me, I feel like, especially with the context of that win, I would paint that as a generational win. I feel like they've had a couple as well.
I would too.
I would paint it as that, and I feel like too, like,
too.
You definitely want to see this U.S. team do something like that. I think go get an upset and go do something like that. But again, it goes back to the conversation of, you don't have that talent of a France, of an Argentina, of a Belgium. How do you combat that? You do that by the intensity. That's how you do it. Yeah. And that's where that needs to come into play. That needs to be how this team, that conversation of why not us, that needs to be the thing of why can't it be us? Let's go out there and let's show them why. Let's do it. And that needs to, like, I feel like you have to see that intensity. And that has to be the big money maker here for the U.S., especially when you look to the World Cup. Because, listen, you talk about the World Cup and you talk about a lot of these matches, a lot of them aren't going to be won because of the flair and the talent that you have. Sometimes it's going to be called because some random insane thing is happening. A goalkeeper is going to come up big in a situation. A player that might come off the bench might come in and have a huge moment. The World Cup is full of insane things that can happen. And that's what we love about it. And you're going to see upsets. You're going to see those moments happen. And, hey, yeah, the U.S. can do that. Why not us? Absolutely.
The U.S. is ranked 16th in the rankings right now. We do have to remember that the last game that the U.S. played before the Belgium match, they obliterated Uruguay 5-1 to the point that Marcelo Bielsa had to have a press conference to say that he was not quitting. What did Uruguay do Friday? What was their result on Friday? We sat here and watched it. They went to London and they drew with England. So, like that happened. It was real. The U.S. beat Japan. They're number 18 in the world. The U.S. hasn't beaten, again, go back to upset. Mexico is 15. I think the U.S. is right there with Mexico. They've traded results over the years. It feels pretty even there. It should be pretty even according to the rankings. The U.S. is going to play Senegal, so we'll get a sense of that. Colombia, Italy, Croatia, Germany, Belgium, Morocco, Brazil, Netherlands, Portugal, England, Argentina, France, Spain. That's the teams ahead of the U.S. They have not played any of them outside of Mexico. They're going to play, well, they lost to Belgium. They're going to play Portugal tomorrow, and they're going to play Senegal and Germany before the World Cup. So I think you haven't really had the opportunity. And Greg, the thing I would say about the signature win thing, I think in the past teams got some of that opportunity through World Cup qualifying. And yeah, on the rankings, it might not have been a signature win to go to Costa Rica and win, but that's a huge win. And we know what that means in terms of World Cup qualifying. It is going to be a problem for the U.S. that you don't have the same intensity needed to qualify in the new format once we get to the next World Cup, because you're not going to have to go to the Estadio Azteca and get a result. You're not going to have to go to some of these. You might not play Mexico in World Cup qualifying. You'll see them in the Gold Cup. You'll see them in Nations League, and Nations League will be really important now. And I hope that CONCACAF and CONMEBOL work together to keep Copa America with a joint competition, because the CONCACAF teams are really going to need it to have these opportunities for signature wins. It's going to be vital. So some of it's a little unfair. I think the signature win thing at times can really be unfair because sometimes you just don't get the opportunity to have it. I think the U.S. has had plenty of good wins against good teams. The signature win is not going to come in a friendly. The signature win is going to come in the World Cup, game 1 against Paraguay, who is a team that you can beat, a team that we could say you should beat. I'm okay with saying that. I think there should be that expectation. You win that, that's a signature win. I don't need a signature win to purely be an upset in a game that you shouldn't win, that you win. I think beating Paraguay will be a signature win. It'd be a much more important win than if they beat Portugal tomorrow or if they beat Germany or Senegal before the World Cup. That's where I'm at. Copa America would be huge. And I think if I'm CONCACAF, I am begging and I am doing whatever it takes for CONMEBOL to allow that. Because with World Cup qualifying, like in the past, in the Hex, you would play 10 games, home and away, and you would generally, Canada wasn't in it very often because they weren't very good very often. You would play Mexico home and away, play Costa Rica home and away, play Honduras home and away. Sometimes Panama, sometimes El Salvador, like it would vary the other spots. Sometimes Trinidad and Tobago. You would get 5 road games in CONCACAF that you can say what you want about rankings of a Trinidad and Tobago, of a Honduras, of a Nicaragua, because you'd have to go through them in the earlier rounds. You would absolutely be thrilled with a draw in some of those places. You would have the game. I remember the first game that when Klinsmann dropped Carlos Bocanegra, and it was a 4:00 Eastern kick, which I think was 2 local in Honduras for game 1 of the Hex for qualifying for 2018, I believe. It was for 2014. And it was probably 100 degrees, and the grass was probably halfway up the ball. It was horrible conditions. Well, you got to go get something out of it. You got to go find a way to get a result, and you get a result, and it feels like a signature result. You're not going to have that now. You're going to have more teams qualify, so it's going to be like we saw this time, where it'll be probably the U.S. and 3 teams that they should get past. And you're not going to get tested in the same way. You're still going to have 3 road games, but it's not the same. Copa America is massive for this team going forward, just in the new nature of it, because – and maybe that's a little bit of the issue with why the intensity is inconsistent for this team. You figure out how much intensity you need when you go to the Estadio Azteca and you can hardly breathe, and it feels like the fans are on top of you and they might be throwing things on top of you, and you got to play. Like, you figure out what intensity is in places like that, and then you go and you maybe have a better sense of it in this game against Belgium. This group, with only a handful of exceptions, haven't been through that. So it is what it is. Hopefully we see that some learning took place on Saturday and we see it come out on Tuesday. Tease your article coming up again, Maddie.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be coming. Sorry, I was not prepared. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think, taking a deeper dive into what Pochettino's talking about with intensity, and maybe taking a little bit back into, like Pochettino first coming here, and, what he wants this team to be, and really digging into that idea, and, just digging a little bit more into it. That's basically it. I'm having fun with it, basically, though.
All right. When's it coming?
It's coming out tomorrow.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming out tomorrow. That's the plan.
I'm just checking as your editor.
Yeah,
I'm checking.
Jason's like, so where is it?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
He's like, where is it?
We need to get Jason, the old school visor that has like a green filter on it, and it's got the room where he can put the pencil through it, and he can sit there and he can take.
When you say that, that makes me think of somebody at the horse racing track who's placing bets, John.
Well, that's one of the looks, but
I'm not that guy.
No, you're not taking bets. You're not doing juice boxes or anything.
No.
But there have been the old school editors that were pouring over daguerreotype and things like that.
Yeah, we don't have those machines. We're new school editors, John.
Yes, far faster.
God.
This is very true. All right. Any final words from you, Maddie?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I think for this match against Portugal tomorrow, you want to see intensity. I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking for. It's a really good opponent. I mean, listen, it's a conversation too of, why would you want to play these teams? You don't want morale. You want to play these teams. These are the teams you want to be playing before you head to a World Cup. You want these friendlies to be set up this way, because this is going to be the test for you guys. And listen, it's a learning experience against Belgium. Tim Ream talked about it. Hey, there were things we liked from that match. There were things we didn't like. There are things that, are disappointing with it. But as Pochettino had us all say in the press room today, it's an unofficial match, because that's what it is. It's not a friendly, not anything like that. You want to go out there. You want to put your best foot forward. And that's exactly what this is. And against Portugal, you want to do that. You want to treat it like it is a full-on match that is almost life or death. You want to go out there and you want to compete and you want to get the job done and you want to win. You want to do it. You want to win. No one likes to lose. You want to win. That's it.
Yes, but I want to see them here. I want to be fair, because playing a team that's top 5 in the world, you're playing a team that has more talent than you. On paper, they shouldn't win. If they don't, I'm not saying it's a failure.
Right.
I want to see the intensity level be where it needs to be. That is number one for me. I want to see the intensity level be consistent and higher. And I want to see this team play well. And I want to see the idea of how they're going to play against better teams. I think we saw it for about 30 minutes against Belgium. And they looked better when they had less of the ball. They looked better when they were defending and getting numbers forward and flipping the game on Belgium a little bit. I want to see that. And if that means they lose 3-1, like Colombia did yesterday to France, okay. I want to feel better about this team's intensity level, ideas, and fight at the end of the 90 minutes tomorrow. And the result, it's secondary to me. It is. Now, where the result comes into play is what we've talked about. If it gets to 2-0, if it gets to 3-0, I want to see this team buckle down and look better in that moment. That's where I do worry about scoreline a little bit, because then the game's different. You got to then protect it, because think about it from this group stage, and we've talked about it. You got 3 games that you could win. You got 3 games that you could lose. Goal difference could very well come into play in terms of where you finish and if you get to the knockout rounds. So you can't have a game that gets to 5-1. You can't. If it's getting away from you, you better just shut down the doors and get out of town at what that score is, and then go be better the next game. So that's the other thing. I hope that part isn't part of the conversation tomorrow. I worry that it could be. And if it is, we need to see a better response in that way. Response. If you want to put it in one word, response. That's what I'm looking for.
I also want to see a breakout performance from.
I'd like to, yeah, same.
I want to see it, and it's something that I will be looking for as to who will be someone that will step up in that moment, and I just want to see that as well, because there, like you said, there is some question marks in that situation, but I want to see who can do that, and I think that's the other thing I'm looking for. We talked about it before, Belgium. These matches are about figuring out individual more than anything else. When you look at results or anything, would a win be great? Absolutely, but again, you want to go into a match, and I think individually, you want to look and see who is standing out, who's going to make a case for themselves, and who is going to put their best foot forward, and who is coach looking at, especially as you look at the World Cup and everything coming around. I think that's the biggest thing when you're looking at that. And sometimes the breakout and like looking at performance, sometimes that's not necessarily, oh, well, they scored. Oh, well, they kept the clean. Oh, they did this. Sometimes it's literally just this intensity or a moment that they brought out in a match. Sometimes it's something like that. And then it's like, yep, all right, that's my guy. Absolutely.
All right, you're going to make picks really quick before you go. Sweden or Poland, who's going to the World Cup? It's in Sweden.
Sweden or Poland? It's in Sweden.
Yes.
Sweden is hosting. They're 42 in the world. Poland's 34.
I think Sweden gets through.
Kosovo and Turkey. Kosovo hosting.
Kosovo.
Czechia and Denmark. It's in Prague. Czechia hosting.
Oh, we talked about on an AST. I want to say Denmark, but I don't know. I'm still kind of iffy. I'm going to go Denmark.
They should. We'll see if they do. Bosnia and Herzegovina hosting Italy.
Now listen.
I picked Bosnia and Herzegovina last Tuesday, and I'm sticking with it. Sorry.
And that's kind of where I'm going to go to, and Nick's going to get really mad at me. And
no, he'd probably pick Bosnia and Herzegovina too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he did. I think Bosnia and Herzegovina, just because I feel like they're hosting, I feel like the so much energy is going to be in that stadium. No matter if there's a crowd increase, whatever there too, I do feel like that place is going to be rocking solely because they are going to be searching for that. And they're going to be searching for it. And I think
there will be a restricted capacity, but we don't know exactly how much.
I don't think it'll matter. I really don't think it'll matter, guys, because I feel like whoever gets into that stadium, it is going to be like they're going to make it as hostile as they can for Italy, and I do believe, I do think it's going to happen. I mean, I just because of the stakes of it all, I'm going Bosnia Herzegovina.
DR Congo and Jamaica.
DR Congo.
And the last game of World Cup qualifying, Bolivia and Iraq.
That's going to be an insane game.
I think it is too. I think it's going to be a nail biter.
It's going to be a nail biter. I'm going to say Bolivia is going to make it through, though.
I think they will. I think they will. I mean, we don't get a chance to see Iraq very much, so I want to see what they look like early on in the game. I think Bolivia, just the gauntlets that they have to go through in South America, I think they're a little more battle tested. So I'm going Bolivia.
Yeah, I'm going Bolivia as well. I just think that. And hold on, we also got to tease that we're going to be on air on AST from 11 p.m. to like 1 a.m. or whenever that match ends.
Whenever that last game ends.
Last game's ending.
Whenever that last game ends, it's going to be Soccer Pirate Radio on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app tomorrow night.
Pirate Radio. That's
whenever the show starts after 11, it's Soccer Pirate Radio. I feel like Christian Slater and Pump Up the Volume driving a Jeep through the desert and like making people listen to my radio station.
Underrated movie.
It's a great movie. Watch it if you haven't seen it.
I will watch it. I will watch it.
It is a great movie. Soundtrack's awesome.
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We got that with all U.S. men's national team stuff, and then we're all hopping on the radio, and we're going to be caffeinated. It's the first time of the year where I'm probably going to have to chug a coffee before we do this because I'm going to be tired. So we're going to make sure that we are caffeinated, ready to go.
All the things tomorrow. Well, go get some rest.
I will. I'll talk to y'all later. Have fun.
Yeah.
Adios.
Weather conditions forced Italy into a late change of plans. Snow fell in Zenica on Saturday, and with rain following Sunday, concerns over pitch conditions meant that Gattuso's side trained at their home base of Coverciano Monday morning. So weather, smaller crowd, hot crowd. That's going to be just an amazing environment.
Yeah, those are going to be good. All at 2:45, and then the FIFA Interconfederation games. Some different times. I want to make sure I've got at least what's being reported now. I think one isn't the later one is an 11 o'clock start.
Yeah, I thought that.
The other one, I believe, is at 5. And of course, it doesn't want to come up like it should. Yeah, I think it's 5 and 11, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 5 and 11. There we go. And you can watch them on FS1.
So you'll have the only game in play will be Team 48 at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, no, we're starting at 11. It will be the last game going on at that same time. We're not going to do play-by-play of it, but we will be talking about Iraq and Bolivia. We will close out World Cup qualifying with you on 92.90 Game and the Odyssey app tomorrow night.
Pirate Radio.
Soccer Pirate Radio, John.
Yeah, Soccer Pirate.
Yes.
Like I said, I'm trying to find any notes on capacity that's available for the match at Bolivia.
I saw one report that said 2,000, but I've seen more that say about half capacity, 9,000. So it won't be fully full. I think it's about an 18,000 seat stadium, if I'm not mistaken. It's still going to be tough for Italy going into that.
The French crew is going to be calling. It's going to be on the field for the match. Referee in the middle is going to be Clement Turpin. Nicola Danos and Benjamin Page will be your ARs. VARs, Jerome Brissard. AVARs, Willie De La Jode. And your fourth is Jose Maria Sanchez from Spain.
Some big friendlies tomorrow as well. Norway and Switzerland. That is an interesting one. Haiti and Iceland. Let's see. South Africa and Panama, 2 teams that are going to the World Cup. Morocco and Paraguay. That's a fascinating one. Algeria and Uruguay. That is also interesting. Scotland and Cote d'Ivoire. Very interesting. Austria and South Korea. 2 more teams that are qualified. England and Japan. Another big one. The Dutch and Ecuador. That's a big one. Lots of big games. Then Spain, Egypt. That's a 3 o'clock kick. Obviously, we know USA, Portugal. Argentina is playing Zambia in Buenos Aires because Argentina is not getting good games as they get ready for this, which is not a good thing. Croatia and Brazil is an 8 o'clock kick tomorrow in a friendly here in the U.S. And Mexico and Belgium is the last friendly of the night. That's at 9 at Soldier Field in Chicago. So all the things to talk about tomorrow as we get into it. We've talked about everything pretty much with this U.S. men's national team. I'm looking for response. I'm looking for, is anybody going to step out at center back? Is Gio Reyna going to get the opportunity to step out and be a guy who plays for this national team, even if he doesn't play at the club level? I guess those are my biggest questions going into this. In general, I mean, you were in the building on Saturday. What was the feeling, the vibe? What was it like beforehand, during, and after?
Well, beforehand, it was obviously the anticipation, the excitement. It's like, hey, U.S. is here. They're in this building where earlier in the day for an NWSL match in Denver, Colorado at Mile High, you had 63,004. And to have that kind of a marker that has been placed in the NWSL, you had 66, 867 or
66, something. I think, something 6.
Yeah, so 866, 876 or something like that. So you had almost 67,000 people that had tickets for the matchup, and it was a hot crowd going into the building. It was, and you could sense the anticipation as we're all kind of walking about and everything. I don't know when everybody else was in, but I was in there about 2 hours beforehand, 2.5 hours before, and you could kind of walk through the concourses and you could feel the surge of energy and everyone just looking for a release of some kind. Then you get the early goal off the set piece, and after the anthems and after all the processional and everything, and you get that first goal off the board, and then you felt that energy increase. And then you had the chance in the 17th, that was the big save from Lamans, which was one of the moments that we've been kind of talking about and referencing and bookmarking as to opportunities and being clinical and finishing and game-changing possibly at 2-0. Lamans makes the big save. It's still 1-0, but you're still there with that energy, and you're and you could feel that 12th man that we talk about in the building happening there with all of the chances that were happening with the United States. Then you get the goal at 45-ish. So the last couple of minutes when DeBost scores his first international goal. You get that goal, and then you kind of feel the energy come down a little bit, and it was a little quiet heading into the half. Then you come out, and it's almost like they're the fans were waiting for something to happen after what didn't happen in the 45. And then you get that first goal at 53. And then it's kind of trepidation, and you're kind of chasing everything along. And I think that you end up with the penalty shout on Ream, and the viewing by VAR, viewing of VAR and that assistant, it kind of, you're that 3 minutes or whatever between the time that the call was made and the PK happens, the energy that you could have had is lost. Then you end up with the conversion, and then it's 3-1 after, the O'Neill makes it 2, and then you have the PK to make it 3, and then you just kind of feel everything delay and the end result happen. And then you could just feel after the PK that the energy, they opened the gate doors at 1 and 2, and you could just feel the energy leave. And the air just kind of went out of the building at that point at 3-1. And then you get the fourth one, and it's quiet. And then the fifth one happens, and it's quiet. But then you get the moment for Big Pat Lake and Ricardo Pepi. Energy comes back a little bit, but that's the 87th minute. So from, say, the 40, so from the 53rd, it was less. 6 minutes later, it was even less, and it was, I don't think you claimed it back really for 25 minutes, maybe 30 when that goal happens at 87. So you're looking at 59 to 87. It's almost 30 minutes, and the energy's out of the building. And it was just quiet when you're leaving and everything. Yes, you have the respectful applause by some, and I don't know if you just sit there and you have people kind of shaking your head going, oh no, here we go again, a little bit, but it was just very, very quiet when everyone was leaving the building. When you're looking at something that happened 5-2 right in front, when you wanted so much more from this because of it being at Mercedes-Benz, because of the crowd from the Southeast. And now you get another chance to do that tomorrow night, but just the energy leaves, and there's this 30-minute gap where you're just kind of there and you're waiting for something to happen.
Tuesday night is going to be different than a Saturday afternoon, so go ahead and understand that walking in. A game that is part of Atlanta United's season ticket package is going to be different than a game that isn't. So, again, when people have narratives tomorrow about the crowd Tuesday compared to Saturday, understand those two things, because it will not be the same size. I do not expect that to be the case. It is not because they didn't play well on Saturday. Somebody's going to write that. It's going to happen. And they're going to be wrong. But just know that. You heard it here first. All right, a couple things about the games tomorrow to keep in mind. Poland and Sweden. Poland has not won in Sweden since 1930. And they've played 10 games there, 8 losses and 2 draws. Going back to 1930, it was a 3-0 win in an exhibition in Stockholm.
Wow.
So the numbers are not good for Poland in that case. Turkey, they feel good about going in their game to Kosovo because their manager, Vincenzo Montella, he says that our footballers are real men. Okay. Sure, I guess. He's very happy about how the Turks have fought for him and how the Turks have, received him and all of that. But they're real men, so they feel good. I guess. Who knows? Gattuso for Italy, Gennaro Gattuso, sometimes maybe good. He says he's not worried about pitch conditions tomorrow. He's not worried about the atmosphere in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Biggest game of his life as a coach for sure. You talked about it. The snow and rain meant the team had to change their travel plans. Also, now it has people worried about the pitch conditions. He said it's an excuse. If the pitch is bad, it's bad for both teams. We start thinking about the pitch, the stands. No, that's weak. I've seen the pitch and it's fine. Honestly, even if it were bad, there's little we can do. He said, as for the fans, they don't score goals. That's never happened to me. He's right in that case. He's absolutely correct.
Do you know the political history that's attached to this matchup?
Political history, no.
November 6, 1996. Italy arrives in Sarajevo for a friendly.
Yeah, I know that part.
Yeah.
They played in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I think they were one of the first teams to do that.
Yeah, the war had recently ended.
Yeah.
Italy's and the ambassador of Sarah Eti Castellani says it's more than a match between Italy and Bosnia and Herzegovina. She literally released a statement. The ambassador of Italy to Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarah Eti Castellani, she said in 1996, the war had just only recently ended. Italy's arrival symbolized solidarity and support during a fragile period of recovery. Although Bosnia and Herzegovina won 2-1, the result was secondary. The match itself marked one of the first major international sporting events in post-war Sarajevo, helping restore a sense of normality and hope. Many citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina found refuge in Italy, building lasting emotional connections. Italian humanitarian workers and volunteers came to Bosnia and Herzegovina, often at great personal risk, according to the ambassador, to support civilians. Reconstruction of the old bridge in Mostar to numerous developments. Italy's remained a committed partner in the country's recovery and progress. So there are deep ties that go back to 1996, where even ambassadors are talking about this match.
Kosovo, they were sanctioned to join FIFA in 2016. This is their first chance to be this close to getting to a World Cup. They gained independence from Serbia in 2008. So this is massive. I mean, there's still countries that don't recognize Kosovo. Massive that they have an opportunity to get here. We'll see if they can pull it off. I think they have a ton of talent. It's just you've never been here before. Their first qualifying campaign, they lost 9 of 10. They have recruited more from the diaspora, obviously. Their first goal was to get to the European Championship, but every game is massive. So the National Stadium, 12,500, tickets sold out in minutes. They're going up to 20 times what the main price was. You've got towns putting up big screens in main squares for people who can't attend the game. And the players, the Kosovo government has promised a bonus of €1 million if they win. I don't know if that's per player or if that's like for the team to split. Still a lot of money.
Yes.
So a lot of motivation there for Kosovo as they try to get there. The Interconfederation playoffs are interesting. We talked about Bolivia and Iraq. We just don't get to see Iraq play very often. Graham Arnold, the manager from Australia, they were pretty good in the Asian qualifying. They obviously were good enough to get to this point, but they were never really they're not like Denmark, where Denmark was really good and then fell off at the very end. So you feel like, okay, they've got it in them to be really good and handle this. Iraq was always kind of coasting along, underneath the top teams. Bolivia was as well. Bolivia got in because Venezuela kind of bottled it at the very end. It should have been Venezuela in the Interconfederation playoff, but Bolivia stayed steady and got the job done. They got into this spot. They came back in the first game, which you have to give them a ton of credit. Bolivia is such a fascinating footballing culture because you're playing at altitudes that are uncomfortable to do anything if you're not used to it, let alone play a match.
Yes.
So it's such an extreme, I think, home field advantage at times for them because of that. But then it's also a big effect when they play in normal conditions to us because they're not used to that. A lot of them aren't. Obviously some players like Efrain Morales is because he plays in the United States and Canada, so he's a little more used to it, but some players are not. It's interesting, that match, because Iraq hasn't been to the World Cup since '86 when it was played in Mexico. This game's being played in Mexico. Bolivia hasn't been to the World Cup since '94. That's the only time for both of those teams to be there. '94, obviously, when the U.S. hosted. So it's fitting that one of them is going to get to come back and the way that they're going to get to come back to the World Cup. But that one, to me, has every bit of 120 minutes and a penalty shootout written in it.
Yeah.
I think both teams are going to be really tough to break down. I don't think it's going to be pretty. We will see where that one goes. Anything else on your mind before we go?
Well, Edin Dzeko, who is still just absolutely a vital part for his national team at the age of 40, I think.
He's up there.
And so to have that kind of leadership on a day like tomorrow, I think is going to be hugely important. Quick quote from Bosnia-Herzegovina coach Sergei Barbarev's on, quote, "If we score first, we'll park the bus in front of our goal." Understandable, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a World Cup on the line. Like, these are different games. Don't turn any of these on and expect beautiful, free-flowing soccer. These games tomorrow, 6 of them, these are games that define the sport in their country for the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. They're the culmination of the last 3.5 years. Remember, the World Cup was we have a 3.5 year cycle this time instead of 4 because of Qatar. I mean, Jamaica's talked about it. The amount of money, like, they've spent a lot of money to get to this point. If they don't qualify, what do the next 4 years look like? Not pretty. They're already not funding their women's team like they should because they don't have the money. It's not in Jamaica. I don't think it's the case of like, oh, somebody's walking away with the money. This isn't Jack Warner from Trinidad and Tobago. There's no money. So if they don't qualify, they're going to miss out on 10 million plus. That kills your budget. It's vital for some of these. We talked about Kosovo. Like, players are potentially going to make €1 million. Like, it's a dramatic day, and the games are going to reflect that. The games are going to be the case of you can't lose.
No.
You know, and that doesn't always result in beautiful soccer. It results in drama, though.
Yes.
And it results in compelling television. It's not going to be pretty, though.
No, it is that whole fighting, scratch, and claw, and, you know, it's throwing rocks and throwing mud, you know, any kind of cliches that you always imagine in these kinds of situations. It is going to be it's going to be choppy. It could be physical. It's going to ride a lot on the officials and how the center ref navigates this kind of thing. Is he going to let that kind of behavior? If the game gets very physical at the beginning, do you let it go? Do you call it tightly? And then how does that center ref flip the script? If it happens in the first half, does it continue in the second half? I want to see how center refs navigate this stuff tomorrow as well. Marsa, speaking of the Bosnia-Herzegovina-Italy match, Marsa reports earlier today a controversial incident occurred before qualifying with Bosnia-Herzegovina, Italy, after an Italian individual was caught filming in the training session of the Bosnia-Herzegovina national.
Oh, no, this is different. Okay, go ahead.
So, according to Marsa, and I'm going to show you the picture. Apparently, this was actually had a picture taken of said incident. Coaching staff noticed a man wearing a military jacket with the Italian emblem resembling the uniform of the European Union forces. He was attaching a mobile phone to his body and filming the tactical training from a location where he was not permitted to be. Upon discovering the matter, officials of the Bosnia team intervened and expelled him from the training area. However, it's still unclear how long he'd been filming or whether he managed to transmit any information. In the aftermath of the incident, Bosnian Football Federation filed an official complaint with the European Union delegation, referring to a potential case of what it described as, quote, sports espionage, end quote, while no official comment has been issued yet from the Italian side. So sports espionage is alleged.
I mean, yes, people do these things because they think they're going to get an advantage. Bielsa's talked about his spying in England, and he talked about being basically, he did it because he's crazy. He's like, I didn't really learn anything because you're not. You might maybe see a set piece routine that you haven't seen this team do. Very rare are you going to find anything like that. You're not going to see anything, and people do this in the media here, but they do it everywhere. It's more here than other places where it's like, well, you're not going to want to show your future opponents anything in this game, are you? It's like for the U.S., it's friendly. You're not going to want to show your World Cup opponents anything. What are you going to show them? Like, what are we talking about? Formations? They're not. Like, set pieces are about the only thing that you can get into. And it's like, all right, if you've got something really crafty and you want to keep it under lock and key and save it for break the emergency glass, fine. That's it. Like, the way a team plays, lineups at this point, I mean, you're going to have a pretty good idea. It's very rare that there are any surprises in the way that the opponent lines up anymore. So It's silly. Again, people do it because you're looking for the edge, because these games do mean life and death and do mean more maybe in some parts of the world. And any possible little tiny advantage will make you feel better going into the game. Even if you really didn't learn anything, but you feel like you got some extra piece of information. That's the way Bielsa put it. It's silly. It's silly. It's as silly as the drones from Canada. I mean, it's silly. But that's what the World Cup means. That's what these things are like. That's the lengths that people go to, wearing a military jacket and attaching a cell phone to their body to try to film something and sneak in and maybe try to send it to the coaching staff, or maybe they were sent there by the coaching staff. Who knows? I'm sure there's plausible deniability. It's silly, but that's how crazy and intense these things are. To go back to the word of the night, it's going to be a wild ride tomorrow. 4 games at 2:45, 1 at 5, 1 at 11. We'll know the final 6 teams for the World Cup. 7 o'clock, U.S. and Portugal. We'll have a better sense of what the U.S. is, I don't know, maybe learning in these 2 games, maybe how they're responding. Maybe we'll have a better feeling, good or bad, about a better sense, maybe a better understanding of who they will be in the World Cup. Got 90 more minutes to figure that out in this window anyway against Portugal, top 5 team in the world. Other big games tomorrow too, as we mentioned, a lot of big friendlies. England and Japan is one that I'm curious about. What does England look like after they couldn't beat Uruguay at home? Ecuador, how do they look against the Netherlands? Spain and Egypt is a really interesting game. I'll end with what I wrote about in Morning Espresso this morning. The absolutely stupid comments made by Egypt's national team's director about how if Mo Salah comes to MLS, he'll be forgotten like Lionel Messi is. Yeah, he's forgotten, all right. And if he's not going to go to a team in Europe, which if he goes to a team in a Big 5 league, absolutely that's fine. Mo Salah should do that. If he doesn't and he wants to come to MLS, come to MLS. Do not, in any realistic conversation, say that he should go to the Saudi Pro League over MLS because it's a better league and more people will see him. They won't. That's a lie. That's not true. The league is not as widely seen as Major League Soccer. It's not at the same level. It's not developing the same type of players. That's the kind of outdated garbage that somehow feeds some of the garbage that comes out of this country when we talk about MLS, and it just all feeds itself, and it's stupid. Don't be that guy. Don't be Egg Avatar guy. Watch the games tomorrow. Enjoy them. And understand they're not going to be pretty in the qualifiers. Maybe the friendlies, the exhibitions are a little prettier. Maybe we learned some things. We'll talk about all of it on AST tomorrow, but he'll talk about it tomorrow morning first.
Yep. Ben Jacobs from Talk Sport is slated to join us at 9:30. We'll get his thoughts on match number 1 for Mercedes-Benz. He was at the media opportunity at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground earlier today for the United States. Made his way down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and caught up with Roberto Martinez as a part of the opportunity that was afforded the local attending press for Portugal. Then at 10 o'clock, Casey White's going to join us, and she'll discuss what's on her mind, probably a little U.S., some NWSL thrown in there, and probably her 98th trip to St. Louis this year for Major League Soccer. 10:30, Marty Jellamy, the head coach of Atlanta United Unified, is going to join us. We're going to talk about what this season was like, what the offseason was like when it came to the training and the recruiting and the naming of the team, and 4 matches. And I think they're going to another place on the road they haven't been. I think they're going to LAFC, I think, this year.
No, we're not going to LAFC.
All right, so there's 4 matches, and I thought that 2 of the ones on the road, that one of the places they hadn't been. So it's New Frontiers traditionally.
I can't remember where they're going this year. I think the Galaxy are coming here.
Okay. But it's 2 and 2, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, who's doing what? And it looked like some New Frontiers for the Unified team this season. And so as I sit here and dial it up really quickly.
Not really quickly, though.
Well, I mean, sure.
Kind of slowly.
Well, but I mean, you can't be shocked by that.
No.
But no, it's always
your phone has so many viruses from so many different countries on it.
Well, it's probably my computer that has most of the viri.
No, your phone does too. You've looked at games on your phone.
Oh, I have?
Mm-hmm. When we've been sitting here.
Okay.
You were looking up the Botswana Premier League
odds
from here.
I have.
It happened.
So Yeah, like I said, there are 4 matches this year
Yes.
involving Atlanta United Unified,
Yes.
and since I can't find them quickly, just know that they're there, 2 home, 2 away, and we'll cover them like we always do. It's going to be fun.
Yes, and morning espresso tomorrow, hopefully before 9 o'clock. We'll have stuff during the day about all the international games. We'll be sharing things. I will more than likely be here at the Brewhouse watching the 4 European games all at once. There's more screens here than I have at home. I can get to 3, can't get to 4. So I love being able to come up here and sit, and I like to personally go into the room on the left hand side where that's kind of the OG room. That was where I watched like World Cup 2006.
I found the schedule.
What is it?
It is LAG coming to Atlanta
Yep.
on May the 9th.
Yep.
It is going to Philly on August 1st.
Yep.
Going to the new stadium. They're going to the new stadium, I guess, in September 5th.
They're going to new stadium.
New stadium. The new stadium.
No, they're going. Yes, but no. They're going to new stadium in Miami.
Yes. So that's the new place that they get to go to.
Yes. Stop trying to be clever.
And then, well, no, I wasn't. I was just saying that's the new place.
So many people are going to try to be clever.
And
I don't think they've been to Philly either.
And so then they wrap up their season at home in the week before Halloween on October 24th when the Chicago Fire comes.
The amount of bad puns that are going to be related to Miami's new stadium is going to be ridiculous.
Yes.
So yes, if you are wanting to watch all the games tomorrow, come here to the Brewhouse Cafe, have an around the corner lager. It's $5 pints. Tomorrow is the last day of the month. For that, yes, of course I'm drinking our own beer here. It will be available in cans before the World Cup. It will be available in more places before the World Cup as well. But it will always be on tap here at the Brewhouse Cafe.
Thank you, Nofo. Thank you.
Yes, powered by Nofo and always powered by our friends here at the Brewhouse Cafe. Make sure you're following all of the things that we have talked about tonight. Nofo Brew Co., the Brewhouse Cafe on Instagram. Make sure you're following Soccer Down Here on all your platforms. Make sure you're subscribed to 92.9 The Game and Off the Woodwork Podcast and all of it. It's going to be a busy day tomorrow. We'll be covering it all after a good night's rest. So thanks for hanging out with us. Adios.